Live from the EPB Fiber Optic Studio, this is WLND Signal Mountain, Chattanooga.
Health, wellness, lifestyle, nutrition, and so much more. Welcome to Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake, a production of Whitfield Media Group, with your hosts, Ed Jones, owner of Nutrition World, and Dr. Christopher Greene, board-certified medical doctor.
Good morning and welcome to Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial 98.1 The Lake. Thank you for taking your time this Sunday morning to join us. We are a radio show that's all about your health, wellness, lifestyle, nutrition, and healthy living. I am Ed Jones, owner of Nutrition World here in Chattanooga. And joining me is Dr. Christopher Greene with CHI Memorial, Georgia. Welcome, Dr. Greene.
You just caught yourself, didn't you? That was so close. Yeah, yes, the previous chief of staff, so we are doing that switch over now for the month of July, but I found out I will still be going to the meetings and doing my part to support CHI Memorial, Georgia, so I'm glad to still be involved at least for the next year in that wonderful process. Thank you, CHI Memorial, both for sponsoring our show for Vital Health Radio for Ed and myself, and for all the work you do for Chattanooga as well as Northwest Georgia. My big thanks also to LHC Group, that's Louisiana Healthcare, for Home Care Solutions Home Health, and Heartlight Hospice of Dalton. Thank you for supporting us and this community. But again, that biggest thanks goes to CHI Memorial and the upcoming hospital in the next 5 years or so. I keep hoping, I think the estimate was 4, but I like to say 5. But we'll have a new hospital to replace CHI Memorial, Georgia. It should be right at about 4700 Battlefield Parkway. And that will be a great service to this community. I think we'll draw a few people down from Tennessee, but primarily for Northwest Georgia. And I cannot thank them too much for that. What an amazing, amazing group of people with whom to work. Let me also remind that no matter how minor an emergency is, Memorial is there to serve you, and that emergency is major to you. Even though I'm a primary care doctor, I want to remind you that when you're short on time and in need of quality health care, you can visit one of 4 CHI Memorial convenient care locations here in Chattanooga or Cleveland, Lafayette, and Signal Mountain. No appointment is necessary. It's convenient, charging a primary care copay, which is a less expensive alternative to emergency rooms and most urgent care centers. It's walk-in care right now. Visit chimemorialconvenientcare.org for more information. I saw a very funny set of billboards on Facebook the other day, Ed, and it was showing the difference in emergency room and urgent care. I think these were down in Florida, and they were educational and funny. One said something like, stung by a bee, urgent care, stepped on hornet's nest, emergency room. And it had different things like that for trauma and other illnesses, and that was actually a wonderful set of billboards. I think people should just go on Facebook and look. It's really a funny set, but whoever did that in whatever state, brilliant to help educate people on the difference in urgent care and emergency room. And of course, all of our primary care locations also do work-ins and walk-ins as well, and we're here to serve you as well. Ed, what's up in your world?
Thank you, my friend. And my world is always at 100 miles an hour. We are at Nutrition
It's the way we like it.
Well, I guess it's the only gear I have. And when I get down to 10 miles an hour, I don't know if I'll fall apart. Actually, I've been doing
That's called sleep for you.
I'm afraid that if I actually got really down to a relaxed state for more than a month, I don't know if I could get back up to this speed. But I guess I will someday find out.
I'll help you.
Thank you. Thank you. You can send me some supporting text on when I need it. But I did see a sign the other day that said, I doubt that tequila is the answer, but it's certainly worth a shot.
That's funny.
So,
was that here in town?
No. Yes, I am Ed with Nutrition World, and we've been in business, opened it in 1979 when I was a really, really young feller at 21 and a half years old, at the same time of being a police officer in Chattanooga. And it has been my life, my career, and my really purpose of life, I now see, was to learn about nutrition and health and prevention and actually hoping to help people get well in a complementary sense. We used to use the word alternative medicine, and I didn't like it because it meant you had to choose. It is not about choosing. It's about partnering. Now, partnering means you need to be an informed consumer to know you're partnering with the wisest and correct people. But to embrace, which I've just continued to sing your accolades about the fact your open-mindedness,
Well,
Dr. Greene, about the fact that you don't just throw everything away and just have this hard line. You are open to listen, and if it makes sense and it seems safe, you are willing to say, let's maybe think about it. And what a breath of fresh air, because I can tell you, and you know probably very well yourself, 15 years ago, I was demonized. I was demonized from 15 years back to 40 years ago because we were charlatans. We were hucksters. We were granola people who didn't know anything about health, and it's simply not true. My industry has evolved now into a very, very professional level on some cases like mine, and others it's not. We have charlatans in every industry, including yours, but we at Nutrition World are raising the bar as high as the bar can be pushed. In fact, we have about 11 practitioners now. The nurse practitioner, Meredith Mason, which you know. We have Dr. McClanahan. We're going to have an acupuncturist. I should have mentioned it. We're going to have an acupuncturist later on the show today, Brett Moldenhire. We're going to have one at Nutrition World's new wellness complex that is fabulous, and I can't mention her name yet, but we are going to embrace everything but surgery, because I believe the human body can heal itself almost exclusively if we give it what it needs and help remove what's hurting it. Now, sometimes removing what's hurting it is emotional, and I think you and I both recognize the devastation of lots of fear and sadness and anger and how that can eat us alive, because you speak about that a lot on the spiritual moment. And in
we
between.
just might again later today.
And okay. And so I am constantly, a lady yesterday, in fact, she sat down with me, and she's been a long-term customer. And her husband died of pancreatic cancer about 2 years ago, and it was one of those that you don't expect to see. He was 45 years old, looked totally healthy, totally fit. When he came and asked me about things, he already had the gray appearance, which, as you know, is not a really super good sign, and he probably lasted about 9 months. Well, yesterday she said, I want to do everything I can to prevent cancer, Ed. And I said, well, we know a lot about how to do that today, far more than we did even 10 years ago. But I will be honest with you, I do believe 2/3 of prevention is the lifestyle, the foods we eat, the supplements we take or don't take. But 1/3 is emotions. So we can do everything right, and still, if the emotions are taking us down, we have to discuss that.
You're so absolutely on the mark with that, and your emotional state, your spiritual state can lift you up or drag you down. I have to look up, I was looking at a good Booker T. Washington quote the other day, but he was talking about the stress is either just putting you down or you can pull yourself back up. I'll find the quote one day. I didn't use it in the spiritual moment today, but I was thinking about how easy it is to get dragged down by the cares of the world. And a lot of times I'll tell patients when they're doing that, I say, hey, I get it. In the Bible, there's that story of Jesus talking to Mary and Martha, and he just looks at Martha, who's so overwhelmed with all of her just daily activities, just work, stuff she has to do. And he says, Martha, Martha, you're so basically worked up about all of this, all the worries and cares of the world. There's really only one thing you need to be worrying about. And he was trying to remind her what's important in life. And he said, her sister Mary had it right, and she was caught up in all that. And patients come in, they're all caught up, and I have to tell them, I do the same thing. Maybe you do too. I get caught up in the cares of the day and the world and realize I did that just the other day. I had to stop. I realized what was happening, went back to my office, stopped, actually prayed for a little bit and said, I'm really getting just worked up here. And I came back a calm man, able to work again. But you can't really work or live a healthy, productive life if you are that stressed about something. And most things, like my son taught me years ago, he said, Dad, you're really upset about this, but it's really just not worth it. There's some things worth getting that upset about, and this isn't one of them. That was his quote. And I remember that a lot. It makes me laugh about it because so many things that really weigh us down really aren't worth it. And we need to pick ourselves back up.
Absolutely. And I love the word that you used, which is caught up in it. And, I really focus my personal life in not always believing the storyline that my brain creates, because the brain is a personal assistant. It is not a great master. It's actually a horrible master. It's far better as a servant. And the brain wants to create stories and expand on it. And the older we get, I think, at least from my standpoint, the filter that we used to have when we were younger that kind of helped us to kind of blow it off, it gets a little less efficient with age. And so all of a sudden, the little thing that would never have bothered you at 25 years old is just constantly nagging at you, nagging. And then then you catastrophize. Oh my gosh, I've got this little bit of pain in my back. Well, it's probably Lyme disease, and it's probably going to be paralyzed within a year. Well, that's not an uncommon scenario of people, as you know, and we have to create a place of calmness and less fear and not fall into that storyline so easily.
And you have to think about, sometimes you do in life and situations and medicine as well, what is the worst possible outcome? And then what is realistic? What is the best outcome?
Bingo. And,
the truth is somewhere in there, but usually it's not going to be that worst possible outcome. And you have to stop yourself and quit worrying about that. And there's I think it's a Mark Twain quote, why worry about anything? It only makes you suffer twice.
There you go. And he also said, my life has been full of many disasters, most of which never happened.
I like that one too.
Hey, guess what? It's time for us to take a break. When we come back, we are going to be discussing hemp and CBD. So popular. We've got that plus more to come. For Dr. Greene, I'm Ed Jones, and stay with us.
You're listening to Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake.
Welcome back, and thank you for making us a part of your day. If you're always on the move, download the free radio.com app to your smartphone or tablet and keep us tuned in each Sunday morning right here on 98.1 The Lake. We are a radio show that's all about your health, wellness, lifestyle, nutrition, and healthy living. I'm Ed Jones, back again with my partner, Dr. Christopher Greene, and today we are going to talk about something that's always a very potent topic in my world, which is CBD and hemp. And before I introduce the guest, I will have to say that being involved in the nutrition world and nutrition business since 1979, I am always scouring anything that can help in a safe way to assist people with their health. Everything from pain to sleep to anxiety. People are raving about the CBD benefits, but the consumer must be aware of something, and that is quality, because we now probably have well over 1,000 companies making CBD and truly only trust a few dozen. Well, today we have two experts from Hill City Hemp, Jay Brewer and Brett Moldenhauer. Welcome, guys.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Good morning. Thank you.
I've known you, Brett, for 20 plus years,
yes,
I guess.
Sir. Yeah.
And he has a vast history of holistic health, being a very well-respected acupuncturist. But what I want to talk about today, you guys, is the fact that it's a wild west out there when it comes to CBD companies and quality. What concerns me greatly is the level of potential pesticides, the level of potential mold that can be found in many products, and the mislabeling of potency and this thing called terpenes. Terpenes is the kind of family of particles or constituents in CBD that actually create the effects we want, which is, again, sometimes relaxation, sometimes lessening of pain, sometimes all the way across the board. And I have just learning more and more that I and everyone needs to be skeptical. When you came to me and I met you, Jay, I was skeptical. I was, as I always am with companies, but your company, Hill City Hemp, has truly risen to the top of my list of quality products. And the reason is because you do everything, what I can see, correct. From the testing to the packaging to the labeling to the harvesting, all of it is done right, and I am so impressed by the fact that you are a Chattanooga-based company, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Brett, tell us about why would the consumer need to be concerned about quality in CBD products?
Well, we can look at it from multiple prongs, but the first thing to understand or to protect yourself is levels of THC in your system. So a first responder or a medical professional, someone that cannot have THC in their bloodstream, even though a certain amount of THC is legal within the hemp or the oil product, the testing that we have for today isn't sophisticated enough to tell us if you have over the limit of THC or the legal limit of THC. So there's a big problem with that. Now, I've seen products in the market that actually say full spectrum, 0 THC.
Can't happen, can it?
It's impossible. Now, and that's what the listener really needs to understand. If they're going to take away anything from this morning, it's going to be you have the isolate, which has 0 THC in it, and then you have the full spectrum. It is impossible to have a full spectrum product with 0 THC. And the reason I stress that, you think, well, who would do something like that? The gas stations that you see and you go around and they have these little equivalent to those super shot little energy drinks. We've physically seen where it said full spectrum product and right underneath in big letters, 0 THC. So that's the very first thing right there is you've got to understand what you're putting into your body.
Well, what is Hill City Hemp?
So Hill City Hemp is, well, actually it's an amazing company, first of all. And when Jay brought me in, I was a little skeptical, trust but verify. And your consumers are savvy and they understand CBD, but what really brought me in was understanding our body naturally makes these cannabinoids. It's a natural product, and it's released through doing yoga and deep breathing. So I understood it was something that was worthwhile to get in. It created homeostasis in the body. That's why I'm involved. Now, people say to us, and it's interesting because Chattanoogans are so fiercely loyal to their community and loyal to the product. And the very first thing we always hear is it grown here? And we quite proudly say no. We scoured the country to look for the best product, the best distillate that you can buy. And when the growers in Tennessee have gotten to the point where they're having quality hemp product, they're having the distillate the way it needs to be, when it matches already our third-party purity and performance, say that 5 times fast, then we'll jump in and do it. But for now, we're looking for where we can get the best to bring it here to Chattanooga.
I love that. And I know that Jay and I have talked before where I'm continually demanding the certificate of analysis. And explain what a certificate of analysis is, Jay.
Well, excuse me. But basically, to dovetail off what Brett was saying, it's just that. I mean, you have a product, and then you pick it up and you look at it, and it says full spectrum but 0 THC. So, from what we do for a living, I look at it and basically ask, well, what is it? Is it full spectrum or is it, a THC product? And from a consumer standpoint, the problem is there's no real regulation, which is a problem. And we don't have as an industry a definition of terms. So there's no government agency or no standard to say, okay, this is full spectrum. This is the definition. This is an isolate THC product. Here's the definition. Here's a product that's made from a crude oil, and here's the definition. So there's no standard out there. So you have to be very careful as a consumer as what you're actually buying. And the verification of the lab reports is vital, because I can tell you, hey, here's a bottle of the 67 milligram. This has got 67 milligrams per milliliter in it. Buy it. As a consumer, you're looking at it and thinking, oh, okay, sure, I trust you. But it's this QR code on the side. You can actually scan it, and it's not as – you have to use the theater of the mind here on the radio. So you can go right here, and when you scan it – I'll try to pull it up here so you can see it here.
So there's basically what goes on is you take your iPhone, you put it up to the QR code, and it's amazing. You don't even have to click the camera shutter button. You just put it right over there, and boom, it goes straight to the website. You fan through, swipe through, and look for the product that you're looking at, and then right there you get everything you need to see, all the way down to the cannabinoids, the levels of THC. And for me, once again, I reiterate back to, you've got to know, honestly, in a legal standpoint, how much THC you're putting into your system.
That, and from a standpoint of health, you want to know that it actually has active ingredients called terpenes, and that it doesn't have mold and pesticides. I mean, Dr. Greene, you can see clearly the value of this QR coding.
Yeah, I just looked at that, and very, very easy to use. I agree with Jay on that. But I had a question, and partly for our viewers, partly for me. Explain full spectrum. I think not everybody's going to know exactly what you mean by that. And the second thing that I was thinking, why is the hemp that you purchase different than, say, Tennessee grown hemp? What is the difference,
Sure.
whether in quality, impurities? What is it that makes it different? Why did you choose that?
So the only reason we have THC in the mix is because there's what's called the entourage effect. And the THC acts as a lattice work or a glue that holds all the other cannabinoids together so they can work in concert. That's the whole reason for the THC. It is not going to have a psychoactive effect. Just like someone looks at a bottle of non-alcoholic beer, it says right on there 1%. No one is getting drunk off of that 1%.
I love that analogy.
Right? And it's the same thing when you're looking at your THC products as 0.03% or less. That is a necessary substrate in order for everything to work in concert.
And in order to remove all THC, it means that you will then become what's called an isolate, correct?
Correct.
And that, in my mind, I don't know about your guys, I believe I know, is altering it really from the framework of nature.
Now, I'll let Jay speak a little bit about the processing and the hemp and the product. He's been around the country. He's seen all of these processes and problems. I've seen a little bit, but he's the guy that knows that one.
Yeah, so you've seen that it's not being done quite on this level many times, right?
Well, excuse me. What you're looking at, to kind of answer your question about the difference in the hemp, you got to start down from the basic level is the soil. What kind of soil? You know, it boils down from what you start with in the dirt, and it kind of goes up from there. And when you look out west, you know, hemp is the type of plant that requires to be acclimated to the soil. So it takes a couple years, quite honestly. But when it goes back to the testing, you know, there's not just like a final product testing. There's testing that goes along the way. So something that comes from out west is going to have naturally, it's going to be a better strain, but it's also going to have a higher CBD count to begin with. So you're going to look at probably in the mid-20s on up to 30% CBD just out of the biomass, so that you're starting with that much CBD versus something that's grown in Tennessee. You're going to be looking, and it's going to range, but you know, you might get up into the 15-17%, and I'll be excited to see what this current crop is going to bring, because I'm sure we'll see some higher CBD counts. But it's all the way from starting with just a better quality product that's been established more from, quite honestly, a group of people that have been doing it longer.
And what we also have to understand is hemp by nature, it's a sponge. It pulls up everything and anything out of the ground. And so, like Jay said, when you're starting in a new soil and a new crop, there's been stories in other places in other parts of the country where they've actually have to grow a certain perimeter of corn around the hemp because other farmers are coming by with pesticides and sabotaging the crop. You don't want to. You have to think about these things, and so it's a sponge, and whatever you put in and around it, the hemp is going to pull it right up.
Well, and that's the fear for me with heavy metals in the soil, because it will concentrate lead, which is devastating to the health. I know we've talked about that here on the show, and I do it on my national podcast, The Holistic Navigator, and I do it on nutritionw.com. So there's another reason for you to respect companies like yours. I mean, we only carry a dozen companies. Again, there's probably how many companies do you think are out there now? 1,000 plus.
You said 1,000 plus, and I don't even know if I can count that high, to be honest. There's a lot. So
yeah, and every day there's a new one.
There are, and not only it's the new location or the new brands out there, it's the new places to go buy it. There's a lot of places out there that I was at an event last Saturday, and we were one vendor there, and there was another, and the young lady walks up to me and starts asking me questions about CBD and hemp, and then I just point blank asked her. I said, tell me a little bit more about your process of obtaining the hemp. And it was like a deer in the headlights.
Exactly.
And so if you can't go to a quality place and get your questions answered, that's a problem.
Well, and
you do find them everywhere now.
I just came back from Morristown this past week for a 2-day camping trip. I have never seen so many signs that said CBD available here. It was far greater than Chattanooga, and it's a far smaller town. Tell the listeners, again, of course, Nutrition World carries your product,
correct,
but how can they learn more about your product? Maybe give website or what would you like?
It's just hillcityhemp.com. If there's information there, if there's a question on there, or if there's information on there that doesn't answer your question specifically, just go to the contact form and submit it, and we will get it answered. The questions that are coming out now are more evolved questions because the consumer is being more educated.
Mm-hmm.
So the questions are being they're better questions.
Good.
And they're harder to answer. So that's why we have people like Brett and to help answer those questions and be sure that we're giving the best quality information.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say it really is a feather in our cap to have Nutrition World putting that product out. When Jay came to me, because Jay came to you before we had even spoken today, and I said, "Did you tell him about me? We're friends." He goes, "No, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to tilt the scales in any way." And when you came back and said how much you love the product, I was like, "Jay, this is big."
I love learning more, but now I can send them to your website as well as nutritionw.com.
Well, and when Jay's talking about they will answer questions, I've literally never seen a company, national or local, that addresses details as much as Hill City Hemp. So, guys, thank you so very much. And on nutritionw.com, Seth, Jay,
Yep.
he's my guru of research for hemp and CBD. And we have a video on there about what consumers need to know about how to purchase quality
it's
CBD.
good.
Thank you very much. So they can go to nutritionw.com to see that on the home page.
And I hope one day there's a way to distinguish the difference in a drug test between, say, a CBD oil and other.
That's the next frontier, right?
It is the next frontier, and we've already had 3 people lose their jobs because of THC, and it was really sad
That's just
situation.
a request to all of our nice biomedical engineers.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's time for us to take a break. When we come back, Dr. Greene and I will be discussing more about your health. So we've got that plus more to come. For Dr. Greene, I'm Ed Jones, and stay with us.
We're all about healthy living and enjoying life. Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake.
Welcome back, and thank you for making us a part of your day. We are a radio show that's all about your health, wellness, lifestyle, nutrition, and healthy living. I am Ed Jones with Nutrition World in Chattanooga, back with my partner, Dr. Christopher Greene. And, earlier you were talking about, you saw this sign that kind of helped to inform people as to whether they should go to a walk-in clinic or an emergency room. And, was it 1 or probably 2 weeks ago, I spoke and told you about my going to a walk-in clinic that you actually had recommended.
That's right.
And we actually went to 3 places that evening with a person of significant in my life, and found out that you really have to be, again, an informed consumer, just like we talked about with CBD on the previous segment, because one of these was rude, and they were callous, and they were treated this person really abruptly, and we walked out. And then we went to the clinic, walk-in out on East Brainerd Road, across from the Walgreens, and it was like 180-degree difference. So kind and so caring. But what your point earlier was, when do you decide to go to the emergency room, and when do you decide to go to the walk-in clinic? It isn't easy sometimes, is it? Because if you're really sickly, you don't know if you are falling into the throes of something significantly dangerous, or is it just something, that needs to be treated? It's tough when you don't have much knowledge, too, isn't it?
That's true. And if they have a primary care provider, they can always have that person called. I mean, that's why we take call. It's one of the biggest things that we do is to answer those questions. And you get some wide-ranging calls, everything from, I was stung by a bee and there's no reaction, I feel fine, all the way to I'm having crushing chest pain and I can't breathe. So, or I think my granddad's having a stroke. So you never know the calls you're going to get, but that's what we're here to do, is to answer those questions. So call your see who is on call for your primary care provider if you have one. And if you don't have one, call CHI Memorial and get a primary care provider. I just thought it was neat that those signs were actually done well. I mean, it showed some practical things that let people see the difference in a true emergency and maybe an urgent need, but not an emergent need. But if you don't know, ask your doctor, ask your provider, and they'll answer that for you.
What would be the reason to not just go to the emergency room?
Ask that again.
Well, I mean, if we're going to have to decide between walk-in clinics or emergency rooms, why not just go the full way and just walk into the emergency room?
And you could, and there's nothing wrong in having, in another life, worked in an emergency room for adults as well as a pediatric one. We get a lot of people that are there without a true emergency. Now, some of those people knew that they were in the emergency room inappropriately. Let's say just had a sore throat and just didn't feel like waiting for their doctor's office to open, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not a true emergency. But most of the people simply weren't sure. So if you're not sure and you think it may be an emergency, yes, emergency room is probably the place to go for you. But if you think it is a more minor problem or chronic problem, an urgent care setting is the correct environment. And most people do realize, yes, if you're having chest pain, it may be an emergency, or if you cannot feel one side of your body or move and may be having a stroke, yes, you should probably call 911. Major trauma, a limb separated from your body, that's probably not urgent care. So, there are a lot of things that are, I think, more straightforward. But let's say your child swallowed a quarter. What do you do? Well, probably either place could handle that, but that may be more of an emergency department to get the imaging done quickly. It is not always a straightforward question, and a lot of people do go to ERs for their regular medical care, and that should be more at a primary care provider. So if you're doing a follow-up for your diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, that'd be an easy answer for you, Ed. No, that should be preferably a long-term primary care provider, urgent care if you just simply don't have one or you're out of town.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing I saw was the efficiency of the walk-in clinic, because you generally don't have to wait as long, and it seems a little bit quicker to get in and out. But
that is true. But some places like us, for myself, and I will say Dr. Michael Dant, for the most part, we stay on schedule or within 15 minutes. So we're not always. Yes, sometimes we have emergencies and stuff does come up, and that's probably for every doctor's office on the planet. But some of us are further behind, but many of us stay on schedule, and we have extenders that help us stay open later. We're open until 8 o'clock every night.
Wow.
Just to help out for people that need to be seen after hours. So a lot of the CHI Memorial clinics are doing that now to try to extend hours and make it easier for people to get in and not make you stay. 10 years ago, that was the most common complaint from my business patients is, hey, Chris, my time is valuable and I can't wait an hour for you. And so I've worked over the years to fix that problem, and thank the Lord right now that is fixed.
Well, I'm
mostly.
I continue to learn from you. You see, I still have that perception that, you're going to close at 5 o'clock and, there's not late hours. But obviously, Memorial has become certainly customer patient friendlier, and it's just great to hear. I mean, I continue to be super impressed with Memorial and how they are progressing in this field of health.
We're learning.
Well, and you either learn or you either get better or you get worse. There's almost no treading of water in business, and medicine is a business. And that's why at Nutrition World I work 6 days a week, because I have to either be going improving, or if not, things slip backwards. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you can't save the ship and it's sinking. 3 weeks ago I did, it was the one time you were gone on a trip, and we interviewed Dr. Resnick. Has a great history of gynecology and obstetrics.
He's been on the show when I was here before as well.
He was, and he's moving actually this week to Portland, Oregon. So I know Chattanooga was a great loss, but we interviewed him because of the fact he was leaving. But I do have a national podcast called The Holistic Navigator, and when he left here, the next 3 days, he came over and did a 40-minute segment on women's health. And it was actually the title is Hormone Imbalances and how to basically treat it with a non-drug approach unless it's urgently needed. And sometimes surgery and drugs are urgently needed. But he has a great little take that was so impressive about options for women who are having irregular periods, painful periods, excessive bleeding, missed periods, a lot of PMS. All these things are so connected to the nutrition and homeostasis of the body and lifestyle habits. So for anyone who wants to get a snippet of this, go to vitalhealthradio.com under past shows, under Dr. Resnick, or not even sure how it's titled, but also the full story is on the holisticnavigator.com, and we just posted that actually yesterday morning. And so interesting. And the one I did before that, and I know this is not, we don't have any time to talk about it, is on mold. Mold is so prevalent in many areas of the country, including this, and people who are exposed to mold in their home can eventually have lots of chronic problems that is never pointed out to be mold, which is a lot of allergies, a lot of skin issues, a lot of immune system dysfunction, where you never seem to get over anything long, and then you're sick again. Well, I have on the Holistic Navigator a at-home test that a Dr. Shoemaker came up with, and it's 92% accurate. And I know it's going to sound hokey, but I have recommended this test for 5 years, and I'm convinced that it has validity. And believe it or not, it has this visual field test on the computer, and it costs $15 to do it. And Dr. Shoemaker is the world's respected mold expert. So if you want to,
it is prevalent, and that's why home inspectors look for it.
Yeah, but the thing is, most people think, oh, I don't have mold because I don't see it running down the wall. Most times it's hidden mold. It's behind the walls. It's under the basement, and you don't even smell it many times.
And a lot of people don't clean their room humidifiers properly.
Exactly. Hey, let me tell you, the sickest I ever have been in my entire life was the time that I was using a humidifier. It was in my bedroom, and I got lazy. I didn't turn it on for like 4 months. Well, one night I went to bed. I thought, it feels dry in here. I turned it on. Within, by the time I woke up the next morning, I was not feeling well. It was close to pneumonia, is the sickest in 62 years of living. And I caused it myself.
You should clean that a minimum of once a week.
Once a week?
Very well.
Okay.
Minimum.
What would you clean it with? Just
usually vinegar.
Okay.
You soak it in vinegar and get all the deposits, the mold, clean it. And I have one, and typically I will take at least 24 to 48 hours and dry it out once a week as well.
Yeah.
Because mold does need the moisture as well.
And CPAP machines, they have to be cleaned, don't they?
CPAPs have to be cleaned, and there are a lot of good products for cleaning those out there as well. And yes, if you're breathing in the mold all the time, especially if you're on certain medications that blunt your immune system, you're going to be in trouble.
In trouble. All right. Well, it's time for us to take another break, Dr. Greene. When we come back, we will be having Dr. Greene's spiritual moment, which we always look forward to. For Dr. Greene, I'm Ed Jones, and stay with us.
You're listening to Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake.
Welcome back, and thank you for making us a part of your day. If you're always on the move, download the free radio.com app to your smartphone or tablet, and keep us tuned in each Sunday morning right here on 98.1 The Lake. We are a radio show that's all about your health, wellness, lifestyle, nutrition, and healthy living. I'm Ed Jones, along with my partner, Dr. Christopher Greene, and we always look forward to Dr. Greene's spiritual moment.
Thank you, Ed. And the spiritual moment is brought to you by Silverdale Baptist Church. If you would like to learn more about Silverdale, just visit their website, which is silverdalebc.com, and that's silverdalebc.com. And they also have a wonderful app you can download for free. Now, today we will talk once again about a life lived well, lived in strength and not fear. Arnold Schwarzenegger once said, "Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength." And from Ernest Hemingway, "The world breaks everyone, and afterwards some are strong in the broken places." Let me share with you also a letter found in the office of a young pastor from Zimbabwe, Africa. This was found after he had been found beaten to death because of his faith. It's a letter that's always moved me. "I am part of the fellowship of the unashamed. I have the Holy Spirit's power. The die has been cast and I've stepped over the line. The decision has been made. I am a disciple of His. I won't look back, let up, slow down, back away, or be still. My past is redeemed. My present makes sense. My future is secure. I'm finished and done with low living, sight walking, smooth knees, colorless dreams, tamed visions, worldly talking, cheap giving, and dwarf goals. I no longer need preeminence, prosperity, position, promotions, plaudits, or popularity. I don't have to be right, first, tops, recognized, praised, regarded, or rewarded. I now live by faith, lean on His presence, walk by patience, am uplifted by prayer, and labor with power. My pace is set, my gait is fast, my goal is heaven, and my road is narrow. My way is rough, my companions are few, my guide is reliable, and my mission is clear. I cannot be bought, compromised, detoured, lured away, turned back, deluded, or delayed. I will not flinch in the face of sacrifice, hesitate in the presence of the enemy, pander at the pool of popularity, or meander in the maze of mediocrity. Wow. Let me close with a quotation from Thomas Paine. I love the man that can smile in trouble, that can gather strength from distress, and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, but he whose heart is firm and whose conscience approves his conduct will pursue his principles unto death. May we all live lives of purpose. Live your life fiercely, full of strength and free of fear. And that is your spiritual moment for the day. Ed?
Thank you, my friend, and I know other people are thanking you silently. I love the fact that the quote that you said included something I had never heard before called low living. How many of us are living low? I certainly have at certain points in my life. And I love the other one that said smile when in trouble. And you talked about having a sense of purpose. Well, I actually had a note this morning that I've talked about one other time with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who's a CNN physician. And we had spoke on the fact that he travels the world to look at people who have lived long, healthy lives. And in Okinawa, the average 97-year-old is still taking care of themselves. And they have more centenarians than any place on earth. Well, there's three things that he attributes that long life to. One is a sense of purpose. That's something that would give us a reason to get up in the morning, a goal, a hope, a dream. And how many people who are low living have kind of lost that? Secondly is a tribe, a supportive tribe. A lot of us have a tribe that's focused on technology, our cell phone, our social media. I'm not so sure that tribe is the one that will be there in the darkest hours. And then lastly, of course, is diet. And they actually have a couple points here, one of which is most people stop eating when they are 80% full.
Isn't it amazing
full.
the number one was really spiritual and emotional?
Isn't it? And, we spoke earlier in the show about the fact that, I believe that 1/3 of cancer rates are caused by emotions and sadness and anger, not nutrition. And here we are, Dr. Gupta's kind of saying the same thing. So walking away from the table when we're 80% full, I am learning that. And actually, that is not something I'm good at because I like the feeling of being full. I don't know if there comes a fear like I'm not going to have another meal, or it's, of course, the thing is it takes 20 minutes for the stomach food to actually send the message to the brain that we are completely satisfied. And most of us are still eating before that 20 minutes gets up. My dad, who's passed away many years ago, I remember all too well, as he aged, the older he got, the slower he ate. And many times we can see our parents within ourselves. Once we pass 50, we're starting to turn into them. I eat so slow now that it's crazy. And I'm always the last to finish unless I'm in a hurry to be on an appointment.
And I was trained to, as a child, always finish everything on your plate. But I noticed years ago my youngest child, Trinity, would not always finish. And I asked her one time why. She said, well, I stop when I'm not hungry anymore. Not when I'm full. I stop when I'm not hungry anymore. And she's been a perfect weight all her life, is athletic. And I realized if more people could do that, we could probably cure a lot of the obesity in this country. Just stop when you're not hungry.
Absolutely. And, we get into this cycle of addictive foods too. So when you are addicted to carbohydrates and sugars and unhealthy fats, because I can tell you, a French fries and a donut is an addictive substance.
Oh, and eating can be fun. My dad's little saying used to be, "My mouth is hungry." He just wanted to taste something.
There you go.
And he liked to eat. He enjoyed that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's like so many things, in moderation.
In moderation. Of course, I think sometimes that word gives people permission to kind of expand the word moderation to not healthy areas. I mean, is moderation 2 tequilas a night? But some people that's excessive, and some people it is moderate, I suppose.
It's true. It is relative.
The other thing that Dr. Gupta talked about was that the average Okinawan ate 18 different foods daily. Most Americans don't eat 18 different foods in a year, because we all kind of have this same palate and taste, and we eat from either the same places we go or the same things at home.
So a wide variety, and I'll bet they were also fresher.
They were fresher. They were
less processed.
Far less processed. He did make the point that that's changing, that the younger people today are starting to eat the way most people in the world are, which is fast food and on the run. And
I've seen pictures of vending machines in Tokyo that have sushi. I don't really know how you do that.
Oh, that's kind of scary thought.
Don't know if that's true, but I didn't like that picture.
I bet you it is true. But I guess if I was hungry enough, there's, I only eat sushi at Sushi Nabi. I talked about that a month or two ago.
Love Sushi Nabi.
And Nabi's a great fella and has been committed to quality for as long as I've known him, which has been 20 plus years. And in fact, I don't know if I told you this story. Went down there with 3 other people, one of which absolutely will not eat sushi because, it's a mental thing, some of this. Raw fish, bacteria, I don't like the taste. Well, taste is a programmable thing. There is no doubt. Well, I'm sitting there looking at the sushi menu, and she says, "No, I'm just going to get fried rice." And I look, and I see this roll on there, and I say, "I am going to order you sushi because I know you will eat this one roll called a Kentucky roll." Well, guess what's in a Kentucky roll? Fried chicken.
I was thinking a little KFC there.
Yep. So fried chicken roll just like it, and it was fabulous. So maybe that's the crack in the door that will enter this person into sushi world. I don't know. It was funny looking to see fried chicken sticking out of the little rice roll.
Well, kudos to Nabi for doing that.
I know it. He obviously knows there's a market for that.
It is the South after all.
Yeah, I know. I did go to, when I was in Florida a month ago, I was all the way down in the southern part, and it's the only time I would ever do this. I wanted a hush puppy so bad, and not one single restaurant had it. I thought every place in Florida had hush puppies, but I guess it's more, I don't know, maybe the southern part doesn't and the middle part does. I don't know.
That's just wrong, Ed.
It is, because when I came back, my rules kicked back in, and I'm not eating that stuff here. I just simply refuse to do that.
Well, have you eaten at Maple Street Biscuit Company? I
have not, and my sister eats there and keeps telling me on a special occasion to go there. Tell me about it.
So it's, went downtown, post-holiday, so I decided it's a holiday and all calories and fats are reduced by 50% automatically, as I tell my patients. So, big group, had a great time, and the food was truly horrible for me, and I enjoyed every single bite. So they had grits that were amazing, just the right amount of cheese. They even put cream cheese, I think it was, in there, and that's something I've never done to grits, and it was fantastic. And Maple Street Biscuit Company, if I got that recipe wrong, forgive me. And something that sounded more like loaded fries, but it was hash browns and bacon and cheese and gravy and all the stuff you shouldn't be eating. And I think the biscuit was called the Five, and somebody else got one called a Five and Dime, but imagine just kind of like your sushi. It was a wonderful biscuit, except that it also had fried chicken and gravy. They put mushrooms or give a kick to it, a little spice. And it was one of the most amazing biscuits and meals I've had ever for breakfast. And the iced coffee was to die for, just wonderful iced coffee. And I could not say I've had a better breakfast in the last 10 years. It was that good.
Wow. Now, they have 2 locations?
Yeah, I think there's one out by Hamilton Place Mall as well. I know I've gotten some to go from there. It's usually pretty crowded. The lines move pretty fast. This was downtown. I can't remember now, Broad or Market, but somewhere right down there. Very easy to find, nice parking on the street and nearby. So very easy to get to, and wonderful little stores right around there I'll tell you about after we are off the air.
Super duper. I love that. And, I made some notes today on, I'm not going to talk about it because we're almost out of time, but this long-term recommendation for people to take daily aspirin seems to have been changed.
That has evaporated. So no longer is that a standing recommendation for people. It used to be from about 50 to 75, barring some other contraindication like a bleeding disorder or hemorrhagic stroke or whatnot. But it is no longer a recommendation. So if you are on long-term daily aspirin, I'm not saying stop it immediately, but call your medical provider, your cardiologist, neurologist, whoever has you on that to find out if you need to continue with your daily aspirin or not. It is now not a standing recommendation.
I love it. I love helping to educate people. I do take something called Kyolic Garlic Odorless, which has some ability to maintain good viscosity of the blood. So that's something I do.
And some of the anti-inflammatories like turmeric and boswellia also have a bit of, I wouldn't say blood thinning, but platelet inactivation in them as well.
Perfect. You know what? That does it for this week's edition of Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial, 98.1 The Lake. It is a production from the Whitfield Media Group and Avalon Design Studios. Thank you for listening. We'll be back here again next Sunday morning at 9 a.m. for a radio show that's all about your healthy living. For Dr. Greene from CHI Memorial, Georgia, I'm Ed Jones with Nutrition World. Have a healthy and safe day, and fearless. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another edition of Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake with Ed Jones and Dr. Christopher Greene. Vital Health Radio, presented by CHI Memorial on 98.1 The Lake, is a production of Whitfield Media Group. Join